Hello, welcome to this week's edition of News Extra. These are not normal or pleasant times, so forgive me if you don't get the usual bubbly me. Last Wednesday, it was all about the coronavirus. I was hoping it will go away and we will go back to our normal lives, but no, here we are with the coronavirus again. So until it goes away, News Extra will keep updating you on what is going on both home and abroad. The good thing is that although some of you have locked your doors for a while now, we'll still get to do this together. So stay with me and find out what is going on. After all, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. I am Fatima Umar Buba and this is News Extra. Let's begin. President Buhari has approved the release of 70,000 metric tons of grains from the National Reserve for distribution to poor and vulnerable Nigerians to cushion the effect of the lockdown on Lagos and Ogun states as well as the FCT. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, stated this while giving updates on containment of coronavirus at the daily briefing in Abuja. And Mitari Beng has the report.
As Nigerians experience biting effects of the lockdown on Abuja as well as Lagos and Ogun states to control the spread of COVID-19, the federal government is ensuring a balance between enforcement of the restrictions and alleviating the effects on Nigerians.
Mr. President has approved the release of 70,000 metric tons of grains from the National Reserve, Strategic Reserve, for distribution to the poor, the vulnerable, and those whose livelihood will be affected by the lockdown. The first tranche of about 6,000 metric tons will go to Lagos, Ogun, and the FCT, while the remaining will go to other frontline states in the fight against COVID-19.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 equally issued protocols and exceptions that will guide security agencies in enforcing restrictions. It included a soft landing that during the 2-week lockdown, only shops and stores involved in sale of food and groceries within markets in the affected states and FCT will be allowed to open between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day.
They will need to observe social distancing measures. They will need to have measures clearly related to mass restriction in terms of mass gatherings. We've reduced the number of hours they can operate to only 4 hours. They are only allowed to open on alternate days, but it will be up to local authorities and the market associations to decide among themselves how they want to operate this.
All banks can open their branches all over the country from the exemptions we give.
All the guidelines the task force says will be disseminated to Nigerians using the media. Meanwhile, 70% of over 5,000 contacts suspected for COVID-19 are already being traced in the lockdown areas by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control.
We're using a digital platform called SOMAS to collect information on all the cases, all the contacts. These are then displayed on dashboards at the federal level, at the state level. With those dashboards, we understand the progress of case finding every day.
2 more laboratories were added to the NCDC network of molecular laboratories for COVID-19 at University College Hospital Ibadan and Federal Teaching Hospital Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, increasing our test sites to 7. As of now, well over 2,000 persons have been tested, with the hope of further expanding and improving diagnostic capacity across the board.
4 teams have gone out and have started decontaminating, disinfecting, and fumigation. Some places you might see gaseous type. This is all in an effort to contain the spread of the virus.
I can assure you that all efforts, all actions required to ensure that there is no occurrence or spread of COVID-19 in any of those custodial centers.
Medical experts in the Presidential Task Force say there are no home remedies or concoctions for the treatment and management of COVID-19. They simply advise Nigerians to respect the stay-at-home restrictions, maintain personal hygiene, including regular hand washing, observe social distancing, and report symptoms, if any. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Well, thank you so much, Mitaire. And as of today, the 1st of April 2020, Nigeria has recorded 23 new cases of COVID-19, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 174. 9 new cases were recorded in Lagos State, 7 in the FCT, 5 in Akwa Ibom, 1 in Bauchi, and 1 in Kaduna State. 9 patients have been discharged after testing negative upon receiving extensive care at the isolation centers, while 2 deaths have been recorded. And Burundi records first case of coronavirus as Botswana announces first death, while Ghana celebrates mass recoveries from the virus. And Adebola Brooklyn Sunday has more on COVID-19 Global Update.
Records from the World Meter shows that over 889,000 cases of coronavirus have been recorded across the globe. The meter also shows that out of 656,195 who are currently infected, 622,007 are in mild condition, while 34,531 are in serious or critical condition. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has described the coronavirus pandemic as the most challenging crisis since World War II. In Africa, there are currently over 5,856 confirmed cases, 201 deaths, 430 recoveries spread across 49 countries, leaving only 5 countries free of the virus after Burundi recorded its first case. To this end, the General of the West African Health Organization, WAHU, Professor Stanley Okolo, in an online press conference on the virus, provided an update on what the organization and ECOWAS are doing to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the region. WAHU, he disclosed, has distributed over 30,000 diagnostic test kits to the 15 ECOWAS member states and is also currently distributing 50,000 specimen transportation kits, 10,000 personnel protection equipment, and some medications to member countries. And in Europe, the coronavirus death toll in the UK rose by 563 in the last 24 hours, a record jump that brought the number of patients who died in hospital to 2,352. In the Middle East, Iran recorded 2,987 new cases of infected persons in the past 24 hours, bringing the total number of cases to 47,593, 3,036 deaths, while 15,473 people have recovered from the disease. Meanwhile, the White House has projected that the number of deaths in the U.S. may reach 240,000, even if the current social distancing guidelines are maintained. The U.S. currently has over 190,000 cases, over 1,400 deaths, while 4,576 are in critical condition. I am Adebola Brooklyn Sunday. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Adebola, for the global update. And back home in Osun, state government is soliciting the support of the federal government to combat the upsurge in cases of coronavirus in the state. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Rafiu Isamutu, made the appeal at a press briefing in Osogbo following the confirmation of 9 new cases in Osun. Femi Afariogun reports.
Last week, a total of 127 Nigerians, some of whom were not Osun indigenes, who were stranded at one of the border communities in Ogun State following the closure of the border, were rescued by the Osun State government. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Rafiu Isamutu, while addressing journalists in Osogbo, confirmed that the returnees were all isolated at Ejibo when necessary tests were carried out for COVID-19. Unfortunately, a number of them have been confirmed positive.
24 samples, and out of that 24, 3 were positive. I must emphasize that we do not have community spread in Osun. Those samples that appear to be quite disturbing, they are mainly from those who returned from Côte d'Ivoire.
While still waiting for results of remaining 56, government is worried that its capacity might not be adequate enough to cope with the increasing rate of confirmed cases.
All the cases we have in the state of Osun were not necessarily residents of the state, but they are our people, they are Nigerians who require the support and assistance of the federal government.
Meanwhile, just as residents of Osogbo observe the stay-at-home order, a visit to Ifon, Ede, Ikirun areas shows total compliance with the lockdown imposed to contain the spread of coronavirus in the state. From Osogbo, Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Nigeria continues to respond proactively to the emerging trends of the coronavirus pandemic as outlined by President Muhammadu Buhari in his nationwide broadcast early this week. Special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, in a statement again outlines the reactions by various agencies of government and trained experts. And Joshua Ojito has that.
A chronology of the national response in the statement by the media advisor indicates that government envisaged the impact of the emerging coronavirus and put measures in place far back as January 28, 2020. Government strengthened surveillance at 5 international airports in the country to prevent importation of the virus, while the Nigeria Center for Disease Control set up coronavirus group ready to activate its incident system if any case emerged in Nigeria. January 31st, following the developments on COVID-19 in mainland China and other countries worldwide, the federal government set up a coronavirus preparedness group to mitigate the impact of the virus if it eventually spreads to the country. On the same day, the World Health Organization listed Nigeria among other 13 African countries identified as high risk for the spread of the virus. The first coronavirus case was reported on February 27th through an Italian national who tested positive. All 60 persons who had contact with the index patient were promptly put under isolation, necessitating a presidential task force for the control of the virus in the country. Various national events, including sports events, were postponed, and travelers from 13 countries with over 1,000 cases domestically were initially restricted to enter Nigeria until the coronavirus pandemic was over, while issuance of visa on arrival was suspended. Educational institutions were closed, rail transport services suspended, international airports in Enugu, Port Harcourt, Kano, Abuja and Lagos were closed as situations demands. By March 23rd, all courts in Nigeria have been shut down, while the country announced the suspension of Federal Executive Council and National Council of State meetings indefinitely. In support of government efforts, the business community, coordinated by the Central Bank of Nigeria, announced COVID-19 fund contributions by 7 Nigerian billionaires and banks. In addition, Access Bank is teaming up with Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, to provide treatment and isolation centers across Nigeria as it braces for the impact of the coronavirus. Friendly countries like China also sent in medical supplies. On March 27th, the federal government released 10 billion naira to Lagos State and 5 billion naira special intervention fund to Nigeria Center for Disease Control to equip, expand and provide personnel to its facilities and laboratories across the country. Government has also directed that all staff of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and experts who are away on training or international assignments return immediately. The President also directed the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment to work with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria to ensure that production of essential items such as food, medical and pharmaceutical products continues. This is being coordinated by the Multi-Sectoral Emergency Operations Center led by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. The President capped it with a nationwide broadcast on March 29, during which he ordered the lockdown of Lagos, FCT and Ogun State to contain the spread of COVID-19. A day after, he signed the COVID-19 Regulations 2020 into law. In Abuja, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Well, Joshua Jito, indeed, a lot has been done and is still going on, I know. Now, the Special Committee of the National Economic Council on COVID-19 is working to develop additional measures to alleviate the challenges being faced by Nigerians because of the implications of the global pandemic in the country. The committee, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, held its second meeting this afternoon as it continues its task of coordinating the federal and state government's responses to the impact of the disease. And State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
The meeting, held via video conferencing and anchored from the presidential villa, received the report of its technical working group, which proposed an array of policy options and recommendations on how federal, state and local governments can bring relief to the people and take other adequate measures in containing and responding to the adverse economic effects of the pandemic. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the meeting emphasized the importance of the assignment and the urgency required, asking that public enlightenment and sensitization on the seriousness of the pandemic should be further intensified at all government levels so that more and more Nigerians would become aware of the compelling and critical dimensions of the situation. The Vice President assured the governors that the federal government is already packaging further resources for a comprehensive economic response to alleviate the challenges of the pandemic, support the states, and provide succor to Nigerians in a timely and effective manner. Vice President Osinbajo disclosed that the newly created Economic Sustainability Committee, constituted by the President, will also be meeting this week to start its work and respond to the situation appropriately. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Thank you so much, GD, for that. Now, Ebonyi State Government says the newly built and equipped virology laboratory for testing and managing COVID-19 patients is now operational in the state. And Governor David Umahi stated this in a statewide broadcast in Abakaliki. Kingsley Okoro reports.
Governor Umahi explained that with the assistance of the federal government, reagents were configured into the laboratory equipment to test the blood samples of 8 suspected cases.
Our testing center for COVID-19 is now ready in Ebonyi State. That is the 7th COVID-19 testing center, the whole of Nigeria. So all that the federal government did yesterday is to bring in reagents and they configure it to accept the specimen for COVID-19 specimen.
The governor noted that apart from the isolation centers in Ishelu and Abakaliki, government has set aside 6 general hospitals in various council areas of any eventualities.
We have also yesterday gone ahead to prepare 6 general hospitals. To further prepare, we chose 2 per zone. In Central, we chose the General Hospital in Ikwo and the General Hospital in Onweke. In North, we chose the Boko General Hospital in Izi and then Ezambo General Hospital.
To cushion the effect of COVID-19 on the people, Governor Umahi directed that April salaries of workers be paid with immediate effect and warned traders against hiking prices of commodities or face the wrath of the law. In Abakaliki, Kingsley Okoro, NTA News.
And in keeping with its strategy of disinfecting and decontaminating high-risk areas of the country against COVID-19 spread, the Federal Ministry of Environment has co-opted personnel of the Federal Fire Service into the exercise, and Onengi Fine Face reports.
As part of measures to contain further spread of COVID-19, the federal government is decontaminating and disinfecting high-risk areas across the country. The exercise is carried out by the Department of Pollution Control and Environmental Health of the Ministry of Environment, as well as environmental health officers.
This chemical is not a new chemical. It has been used in decontamination even in our hospitals, our health facilities, and it is also applicable in the isolation camps and in the quarantine station.
Way of protecting himself.
Now, to optimize the impact of the exercise, personnel of the Federal Fire Service are being trained to also carry out decontamination against COVID-19.
So we are calling on all the people to stay away. Anywhere you see fumigation going on, decontamination, please keep your distance. Chemicals have a lifespan. After fumigation, after a number of either hours or days, the potency has gone way down and may not be that harmful. So, but during the fumigation exercise, stay away.
We have what it takes to carry out this exercise. We are collaborating with the Ministry of Environment. They are giving us the PPE, which is personal protective equipment. They are giving us the chemical. We have our fire trucks. Each of these trucks carries 6,000 liters of water, and it has 3 discharge outlets. So it depends on where we are. Then we now know which of the discharge outlet we are going to use.
So far, some federal parastatals, including the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA National Headquarters in Abuja, have been decontaminated. The exercise will extend to schools, to markets and other densely populated areas in the country. In Abuja, Onengiye Fineface, NTA News.
In another development, Governor Samuel Ortom has ordered the fumigation of markets in Benue State to prevent the spread of coronavirus pandemic. The governor gave the directive while moving around various markets in Makurdi metropolis to monitor the level of compliance with government's directive on closure of all markets in the state. And Charles Abba reports.
The decision for the fumigation of the markets and other public parks is part of measures to curtail the spread of coronavirus disease. Governor Samuel Ortom, who was accompanied by some heads of security formations in the state, alongside members of the State COVID-19 Action Committee, visited the Wadata, High Level, Wurukum, North Bank, and Modern markets. Modern Market is one of the markets that is full of various activities. As you can see, the market is empty. This is in compliance with the directive of the state government that all markets should remain closed for 14 days in order to avoid the spread of coronavirus pandemic.
This is as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. That is why we got an order from the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment to come and evacuate refuse from the gutters.
The governor announced to the people that the virus is pandemic and has no cure, which is why government is working to avoid the spread.
For the next 14 days, starting from last morning, we are going to close down and be doing partial activities that are necessary. Even government said don't close down.
As proactive measures to stem the effects of the pandemic, the Benue State government had announced the shutdown of markets, suspension of religious and social gatherings, social distancing and restriction of passengers in buses, tricycles and Okada. In Makurdi, Charles Abba, NTA News.
And from Makurdi, we'll head to Lagos. The Lagos state government will cover 80% of the metropolis in its ongoing disinfection exercise throughout the 14 days lockdown order by President Muhammadu Buhari to curb further spread of coronavirus. Lagos State Commissioner for Home Affairs said the strategy is aimed at preventing the emergence of new cases. Anabola Salami reports.
Of COVID-19 in Lagos, the state government has embarked on a series of measures to curb the spread of the virus. Prominent among steps taken is the disinfection exercise of major bus stops, public gathering arena, major streets, and highly populated areas. The exercise, which is aimed at protecting lives of the citizenry against contracting the virus, will also ensure a cleaner environment.
We started this even before we started having confirmed figures. So, but we believe it's a continuous exercise, and we are moving on. We hope to cover the whole of Lagos.
The disinfection exercise with no adverse effect on human health remains one of the means to kill the virus.
Basically, what we're using is sodium hypochlorite, which is just like your domestic bleach, just a little bit a higher concentration. So it's, everybody uses this in their house. What we can do as custodian of the environment is to take care of all the railings and all of that, as Mr. Governor has directed.
Be an ambassador to tell people that this is a war. We're fighting an invisible enemy, the enemy that does not know the rich, the poor, color, or whatever. That's why I'm outside.
This disinfection exercise continues. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Borno State government has read the Riot Act to filling stations whose owners are in the habit of hoarding petroleum products and hiking prices. Such acts, Governor Babagana Umar Zulum says, will leave the government with no choice but to revoke the land titles of such filling stations. This was when he visited some outlets in Maiduguri following reports of fuel scarcity in the state. Mohammed Goni reports.
The federal and state authorities announced preventive measures against the coronavirus pandemic. Some marketers were reported to have taken advantage of the situation to either hoard petroleum products or sell them at exorbitant prices to the public. Governor Babagana Umara, who visited over 10 filling stations in the metropolis and environs, personally evaluated volumes of commodities in each station visited.
All petroleum dealers should desist from such nefarious activities and ensure that they sell petroleum products as and when due.
Interacting with officials of the filling stations, Governor Babagana Umara directed immediate resumption of sales of PMS at the official prices and also called on the DPPR to close down some filling stations found wanting. The governor also used the opportunity to call on other marketers in the state who are taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to hike prices of food items to desist or face the wrath of government. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud Goni, NTA News.
And in fulfillment of the new pricing modulation of petroleum products nationwide, the federal government announces 123.5 naira as the new price of premium motor spirit with effect from April 1. That's today. Benny Adams, who went around town to assess the level of compliance, now reports.
It is the first day of April and the price of PMS per litre is 123.5 and no longer 125 per litre. The federal government, through the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, had on March 18 reduced the pump price of PMS from 145 to 125 per litre and promised a new pricing modulation that would reflect the global market price from April 1st. In fulfillment of that promise, the federal government last night reduced the price by 1.5 naira on every litre of petrol purchased nationwide at this moment.
It depends on the international price, the price of crude oil. So since it's now presently at 20 per dollar, I think that's the essence of reducing it. If it goes up, there's a possibility that it can be increased.
Most filling stations from the mega stations, talking about the independent petroleum dealers, the major marketers, as well as the NNPC, still sell at 125 per litre. While these ones are selling, some others don't even have the product to sell. From the streets of Abuja, I am Benny Adams, NTA News.
And about 2 weeks ago, the federal government announced a new petroleum pump price of 125 naira per litre from 145, a result of a drop in the price of crude oil in the global oil market. And today, following a further reduction in the per barrel price of crude oil, the domestic price of petroleum has also been adjusted by the PPPRA. And joining us now to speak on this development is Mr. Olusoji Shuluyi. He is the GM Operations PPPRA. You're welcome to News Extra.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you're staying safe.
We are staying safe, but still doing our work.
Okay, yes. It's very, very necessary. Now, how did the PPPRA, that means your agency, arrive at this new pump price?
Well, as you're aware, there's a downward trend in the price of crude oil in the world, and that has affected the price of gasoline also in the world. That's why we've because of what the federal government has approved for the agency, we are supposed to modulate the prices and ensure that on a monthly basis, new prices are announced in the country for the masses.
Okay, and that's why it was announced today?
That's why it was announced today on a monthly basis. We did that 2 weeks ago, which was in the middle of the month, and today is the 1st of April. That's why we have announced another price today.
So does the agency have, any consultations with key players, like talking about the marketers, of course?
Oh yes, we do. There's been a wide consultation with all the major players. NNPC is in the forefront, with the Honorable Minister steering the ship. That's why we've been able to get to where we are today.
Okay, so how about the level of compliance? Because we've seen from the report that my colleague we just rolled out, by Benny Adams. It said that there were almost zero compliance to the 123.5 naira pump price. So what will you do about it?
Well, whenever we have adjustments on the going down, you expect that some of the operators will not immediately comply, but we're engaging the operators. We had a meeting with the Honorable Minister steering the meeting today, and ours is to engage all the operators and make sure that they comply for the good of all Nigerians.
Okay. So now you're with the agency, you're GM operations. What would you tell Nigerians? Should we look forward to further reduction in the pump price?
Well, you know that Nigeria is an importer of petroleum products. NNPC has been supplying the petroleum products for a while, especially PMS. And most of all, the crude oil is an international product, and you expect that such will translate to whatever happens in the global market will affect the domestic market here. So we hope things will continue to be as they are now for the good of Nigerians.
Okay, and then lastly, of course I have a car and I fuel my car. So what will you do about the compliance to the 123.50 people?
Ours is to ensure that, first of all, PRA has the staff in all the depots around Nigeria, all the depots, and ours is to ensure that products leaving the depots are dispensed at the recommended rate prices. We also have stronger engagement, collaboration with DPR, with NNPC, and other sister agencies to help in ensuring this is done. And there's full compliance.
Well, thank you so much, GM Operations PPRA, for coming on a News Extra.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and you're watching News Extra on the NTA. It's day 2 of the lockdown in the FCT and Lagos. We have stories of the usual and unusual experiences of Nigerians after the gates closed, and a helping hand at a time like this. Federal government reaches out to the vulnerable. Staying strong, health experts gives tips on boosting the immunity against coronavirus. Please stay.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Katsina State Governor Right Honorable Aminu Masari has approved the appointment of COVID-19 fundraising committee to strengthen the containment measures already taken by the state government. The 11-man committee is chaired by the Deputy Governor, His Excellency Maniu Yakubu. The panel will identify and seek financial assistance from appropriate members of the public. They are mandated to handle procurement of needed equipment and medicament in liaison with the task force on COVID-19 and recommend any other palliatives. The committee has started receiving donations from philanthropists and financial institutions in the state. His Excellency Governor Aminu Masari has also appealed to all especially wealthy individuals and private organizations, to donate generously to the committee to enable the state contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Payment should be made to Katsina State COVID Support, account number 1022751974, UBA. Announcer, Secretary to the Government of Katsina State, Mustafa Muhammad Inwa.
You can choose to do this with your stew, but not your data. Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# today. Data is life.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
The deadly coronavirus, it moves too fast across the surface of our planet. The Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, advised to stay safe and guide yourself with the right information. Avoid contact with sick persons. Ensure you wash your hands with water and soap or apply alcohol-based hand sanitizer always. Practice social distancing with no more than 20 persons. If you are coughing and sneezing frequently, please stay away from people and contact health officials for further examinations and treatments. The virus spreads easily when you touch infected materials, fabrics, wooden surfaces, and even metals. So avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with your unwashed hands. To protect our world from COVID-19, it's our collective responsibility. ALGON says, stay safe, stay home. This message is from Barrister Alabi Kolade David, President, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, for and on behalf of the 774 local governments in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
In our nation drive to boost its economic base through non-oil export, Smedan has taken the challenge of industrializing our nation through a program called OLOP. OLOP is a program which identifies a product in a local government that has competitive and comparative advantage. And the aim of the program is to reach the 774 local governments and help the nation to industrialize. With the support of the federal government, Smedan was able to reach 218 local governments in our country by providing the cooperatives group training, workspace, equipment, and working capital. We call on all the critical stakeholders in MSME ecosystem, as well as the international development partners, to join us in our vision to transform the economy of this country under the transformation agenda of Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari. In Smedan, we have a slogan, think big and start small.
Thank you so much for staying. Most sections of the federal capital city could be said to be observing the lockdown with integrity. There are, however, issues with implementing the order along Mararaba Nyanya. Motorists on transit to states of the Federation are putting pressure on personnel enforcing the lockdown, even as local population create their own issues. And Hamis Urugu has a situation report.
Back in the familiar territory, I am back in Mararaba Nyanya. Now, let me show you. Did you see this landmark? That is the division between Mararaba and Nyanya. One is not implementing the lockdown. That is Mararaba. So it's a restless city with the people going along with their businesses. On the other side, if you come in like I am now, it's Nyanya, which is in the federal capital city. Now, this place is interesting as far as the story of the lockdown is concerned. Now, many people coming from this axis, because like I told you, in this place, more than 10 states are connected. And then it is a highly densely populated area because most of the suburbs of Abuja are around this axis. So it is a restless place where people are always on continuous motion to find something to support their livelihood. So in that respect, you will find that there is high volume of traffic on a continuous basis. That is the scenario that is playing out here. If you go out there, you will find that there are over 1,000 vehicles, all wanting to go into the federal capital city despite the lockdown. And then they are being effectively stopped by the security agencies that are marshaled around in that area. No movement. The mantra is total lockdown. But then it is like the people do not understand what that means. Or even if they do, it doesn't make any effect of them. Their interest is to be allowed to go into the federal capital city. And the security agencies are saying that there is a total lockdown, you are not going. Under scorching sunshine, you are waiting to go to Abuja and you are stopped. Don't you know of the lockdown in Abuja?
Yeah, I'm aware of it, that the lockdown, but the reason that brings me out is serious reason. So I can't stay, then the reason is not going to be solved.
I know.
So what happened?
I went to buy some food items at Marava. I am on my way to FCT, but it's not easy to pass through.
You know it's not easy. Why did you go, sir?
But they made mention of essential commodity, essential services. That if you are going to hospital, food, petroleum, security agencies should allow you to move.
It is a very tasty atmosphere here. Stand-up is not uncommon. Often between individuals who come to claim essential service engagement, but with no credible paper or credible story. On the route going to Abuja, however, traffic is unimpeded. Motorists and pedestrians are stopped only to have their temperature taken. Generally, there is a joint operation of various services on the Mararaba-Yenya axis to implement compliance with the lockdown. In Abuja, Mohammed Hamis Rogo, NTA News.
Well, it is very, very simple. Let's just comply to the laid down rules and regulations. Now, the total lockdown in Lagos is taking its toll on essential workers who are indispensable due to the services they render. And Becky Madujemo, who embarked on a drive through major routes in the island axis of Lagos, reports on the hurdles these workers have to cross, as well as the level of compliance by the public to the stay-at-home presidential order.
The ambience of day 2 is a lot louder than day 1. An objective observer would say the public is testing the waters with the enforcement agents to see just how much they can get away with. Although the roads were not heavy with traffic, there was the conspicuous absence of security operatives many kilometers at a stretch, a contrast from the previous day of lockdown. For mobility, people have taken to the use of their legs. Most are essential workers who have no option than walking to their duty posts.
I came from Brother.
How did you get here?
The vehicle, the man that helped me stopped me over down there, so I have to try to get to my office.
A few have cleverly made a home at their workplaces.
Some are not coming, some are coming, so they have the space to stay at work.
For the workers who lack the stamina to trek long distances, begging to hitch a ride from total strangers at the bus stops is a skill they are mastering in a hurry. As for the non-essential workers, the lockdown is a great time for physical fitness and taking leisure walks. A couple of people even involved their pets. There is also that group of persons who leave their homes faffing around for no apparent reason. And it was shocking to find that some still acts like coronavirus is not that serious.
But what I know is this, the virus is not made of us. It's made of abroad people, those who went to abroad. Who have been in Nigeria, have not entered places, they brought me to abroad.
Meanwhile, enforcement was intense in areas like Ikate, Jakonde, and Victoria Island. Motorists were queried by the security personnel who politely interrupted the journeys of defaulters. In addition, the synergy between the police and the military could not be missed as they interrogated people without any form of aggression. In Lagos, Becky Madujemo, NTA News.
Well, Becky, like I said earlier, we should just comply with, the laid down rules and regulations. Just stay at home and keep safe. As COVID-19 progresses and ravaging the entire world, one may not help but wonder how the pandemic is taking a toll on street children who are already in the toughest of circumstances. In this report, Fatima Sanusik Ara examines how these vulnerable children who appear ignorant of the pandemic are coping.
From imposing travel bans to prohibiting mass gatherings, closure of schools and ministries, governments across the nation are increasingly adopting measures to curb the spread of novel coronavirus. Kano State is not left behind as it has put in place several measures. While some people are adhering to experts' order, there is a segment of the society who do not have any clue of the looming danger close to home. This is a means of getting food without begging, trying to engage in menial jobs while protecting their dignity. This is the life of street child amidst COVID-19 crisis, going from house to house, emptying garbage bins for a bowl of leftover food or a pay that cannot pay for a decent meal. Although some children still go out begging in streets, the danger is getting in contact with a coronavirus-infected person who shows no symptoms. But who cares? Who protects them? What plans are there for them? While other children are protected and guided, especially at this time of pandemic, these vulnerable children do not have the luxury of even washing hands with soap. And with the increasing number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the country, the possibility of spreading to these vulnerable children is imminent. And when that happens, there will be catastrophe. Looking at their living conditions, totally disregarding social distancing order. Director, Center for Infectious Diseases Research, Bayero University, Kano, Professor Isa Sadiq Abubakar speaks.
The fact that there is a large crowd of young children sleeping together may be a big problem in the sense that if one is infected, many of them are likely going to come down with the disease.
How will these children survive the pandemic?
So it requires the authorities and people who are learned in the society to come up with strategies that will do away with this.
In the face of the fear of the unknown, experts are stressing the importance of washing of hands, social distancing, and stay at home. For these children, roaming streets for survival continues. It is survival of the fittest. But one thing that is true, COVID-19 is real. In Kano, Fatima Sanusik Arai, NTA News.
Sure, COVID-19 is real. Beautiful questions you asked there that need immediate answers. Now, some of the residents of Kwale Area Council in the Federal Capital Territory have every reason to be thankful during this critical time for Nigeria. Not because they are exempted from the COVID-19 pandemic affecting the country, but because some of the beneficiaries have received their 4 months payment of the federal government conditional cash transfers as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari. And Ruth Aguele has the details.
Anxiety, impatience, and a desperate desire to get a hold of their entitlements. These are the more than 5,000 beneficiaries in Kwale Area Council in the FCT, waiting to receive their 4 months conditional cash transfer from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari. Mother of 4, Habiba Suleiman, is one of the beneficiaries whose life has changed since being enrolled into the CCT. Just like Habiba, these other beneficiaries are glad with this initiative. For the minister, the immediate implementation of the president's directive is in line with the spirit behind creating a ministry to cater for the needy.
We have 1 million people, over 1 million across the country, and for the FCT, this particular local government council, we are giving out to about over 5,000 households. Now that we have these restrictions, Mr. President has directed we give 2 months advance payments.
It's not just about the cash alone. It is a cash plus program. We give them money, we also train them on how to be self-sustaining.
Similar exercise is to be carried out across all the states of the Federation as government quickly moves in to cushion hardships as part of measures taken to curb the spread of COVID-19. In Abuja, Ruth Aguela, NTA News.
And another good news is that 40,000 vulnerable persons from across 6 local government areas of Nasarawa State are to benefit from conditional cash transfer as part of efforts to mitigate COVID-19 impact. And Ali Tijani Mohammed reports that the State Focal Officer for Federal Government's Social Investment Program met Governor Abdullah Hisley to discuss implementation.
ASIQ in Lafia local government area is the take-off point of the disbursement, expected to be monitored by local government chairmen and House of Assembly members of the benefited local councils. The state focal person for social investment program, Imran Jibrin, says payment will commence immediately in line with the presidential directive to mitigate impact of coronavirus on the economy.
We had a discussion with His Excellency on the cash transfer stipend is being paid to the most poor and the most vulnerable in the society by the federal government under the directives of Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari.
Nasarawa State government says it will key into the federal government intervention.
I want to make sure we use the money completely for food and PPEs that will go to the various local government areas.
This is the second phase of the conditional cash transfer in Nasarawa State. In Lafia, Aliyu Tijani Mohammed, NTA News.
Though no confirmed case of coronavirus recorded in Adamawa State, the state government has locked down all transactions except for essential needs. Let's join Bilkisu Abubakar in Yola for a situation report.
To safeguard the people of Adamawa State from coronavirus, the Adamawa State government has taken measures by directing all activities or transactions to be suspended for 14 days. Beside me is one of the residents, Yaya.
This measure is right at the right time. For me, I've just heard about it 3 days or 2 days before, so I did not prepare for it.
This is the Meta Police Roundabout, which is the center of the capital city of Yola. It once used to be a beehive of activities. However, the lockdown of transactions and directives given by government for everyone to remain at home compelled everything to remain standstill here in the capital city of Adamawa State. The Meta Modern Market, which used to be bubbling with activities, today most of the shops remain under lock and key, as only those selling food items are allowed to operate. Dr. Bolkidili is the Director of Public Health in the State Ministry of Health and the Secretary of the COVID-19 Containment Committee. Sir, how far so far the situation of coronavirus in Adamawa State?
The situation so far is that this morning we received good news from Abuja, a reference laboratory, that the 2 samples we took tested negative, which means Adamawa is still free from the coronavirus disease.
So far, no any case of coronavirus in Adamawa State, and we hope to remain so. In Yola, Bilkisu Abubakar, NTA News.
We hope so too, Bilkisu. Now, necessity, they say, is the mother of invention as the effects of COVID-19 continue to bite harder, disrupting everything in its wake. Students in Jigawa State have a silver lining as 2 public-spirited ICT experts have provided a solution through e-learning. Ibrahim Belogunda reports that the innovation could be regarded as another scientific breakthrough.
The COVID-19 pandemic, no doubt, had far-reaching consequences beyond the spread of the virus across the world, also negatively affecting educational, economic, and other spheres of human endeavors. 87% of students worldwide are forced to stay at home due to the scourge of COVID-19 pandemic, thereby disrupting academic activities globally. In a swift move to address this challenge internally, two ICT experts from Jigawa State invented a software platform known as Open School Nigeria Project to see that teaching and learning continues electronically. We assemble information, tips, tricks, guidance, and best practice for people to utilize so that they can seamlessly continue with their studies while the schools are closed. So far, the project has received over 50 mails from schools and higher institutions of learning indicating interest to key into the initiative. Some students and parents say the innovation will reshape teaching and learning if properly harnessed.
If you see the way the app is designed, it has some Google Docs, Google Classrooms, Google Meetups, Google Hangouts. I'm very happy because I may be able to make some video calls with some of my students who are far away from me. I will be able to be submitting my assignments and all that through that Google Classroom.
Looking at the situation at hand, I think every parent should support the government, should move and encourage the government in adopting this app.
With schools like this shut down and academic activities suspended across the country, the e-learning platform will provide an opportunity for Nigeria to join the league of countries whose education system is not affected by the outbreak of the virus. In Dutse, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, NTA News.
And in the next segment, COVID-19, a threat to health and a threat to food security. Find out how when we come back.
Welcome to our wonderful world of data with these incredible new offers from your #1 4G network nationwide. Glow Unlimited.
Power outages have become part of our lives, and life can be a nightmare without power. That's why, now more than ever, you need to take control of your life with Omaha Portables.
The power output of every Omaha generator is exactly as stated in its power rating.
As long as there's Omaha, your home will have the reliable power you thoroughly deserve.
Omaha generator gives us peace of mind because it never fails us.
Omaha Portable Generators, inspired by you. Amazing Bluetooth, gripping 4K, high-def satellite receiver, vibrant colors, make you feel truly immersed in the action. Omaha Television, inspired by you.
Katsina State Governor Right Honorable Aminu Masari has approved the appointment of COVID-19 fundraising committee to strengthen the containment measures already taken by the state government. The 11-man committee is chaired by the Deputy Governor, His Excellency Maniu Yakubu. The panel will identify and seek financial assistance from appropriate members of the public. They are mandated to handle procurement of needed equipment and medicament in liaison with the task force on COVID-19 and recommend any other palliatives. The committee has started receiving donations from philanthropists and financial institutions in the state. His Excellency Governor Aminu Masari has also appealed to all and sundry, especially wealthy individuals and private organizations, to donate generously to the committee to enable the state contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Payment should be made to Katsina State COVID Support, account number 1022751974, UBA. Announcer, Secretary to the Government of Katsina State, Mustafa Muhammad Inwa.
Since 1971, Nigeria's foremost human capital development institution, the Industrial Training Fund, ITF, has been at the forefront of equipping Nigerians with skills for national growth. Today's ITF has repositioned and refocused its programs, forging new partnerships locally and internationally to effectively deliver on its mandate. With 37 area offices and 5 industrial skills training centers across the country, ITF is pushing to reduce unemployment by providing relevant technical and vocational skills for employability and entrepreneurship in diverse trades and crafts. Whether you're a public or private organization seeking to improve the skills of your personnel or an individual looking to acquire skills that will increase your chances of employment or even to help start your own business, today's ITF has a program for you. Speak to us today. Contact our area offices nationwide or visit our website www.itf.gov.ng. ITF, developing the nation's human resource.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person who affects 2 persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the 2 persons have affected 4, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Welcome back to News Extra. Now, the body of permanent secretaries headed by the head of service of the Federation has joined the League of Contributors in the efforts to help the federal government contain the spread of the coronavirus. The body has donated some items to be used for personal and home hygiene. Anthony Forson completes the report.
The head of service, Dr. Folashade Yemi Esson, during the presentation said the permanent secretaries contributed a large chunk of their salaries to get the items so that the beneficiaries can maintain optimum hygiene status. She noted that the items were chosen because healthy hygiene is important in the fight against the pandemic. The items to be distributed to the vulnerable in the society include 100 cartons of bar soaps, 100 cartons of Dettol antiseptic soaps, 80 cartons of Dettol disinfectants, and 100 cartons of Ariel and Sunshine washing powders. The items have been since handed over to the federal government through the chairman of the COVID-19 Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa. The chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 commended the gesture and commitment of the body in the affairs of government. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajar Farouk, who took charge of the items, promised that the items will get to the targeted beneficiaries. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
In the meantime, a leading integrated manufacturing agro-allied group, Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC, producer of Golden Penny Iconic Foods, has donated truckloads of some of its products to the Lagos state government for onward transmission to 102,000 households with an average of 6 members. Adeola Kami Akere witnessed the presentation of the products and filed in this report.
Golden Penny noodles, Golden Penny pasta, semovita and wheat. Stable Foods, Nigeria relish. Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC says the donation is to alleviate the food challenges some families will face in the wake of the coronavirus lockdown.
And at FM Golden Penny Flour Mills, we are going to play our full part in defeating the virus, but importantly, in conjunction with government, to providing 102,000 households in Lagos with food parcels.
Apart from the food donations, the company reveals that it's making plans to support government with additional medical supply.
In our own way, we want to support with some medical supplies, some kits as best we can, and we're trying to get those in as quickly as possible through our mother company.
Our task as one of those whose mantra has been to try and feed the nation is to try and contribute a little bit the little bit that we can to trying to assist that Lagos State team.
The Commissioner for Agriculture, Bolahon Lawal, expressed the state's appreciation to the company. He reassured Lagosians that the palliative measure will be evenly distributed to the needy across the state.
102,000 households to be fed in conjunction with the Lagos State government is a huge task. To Lagosians now, this is not the time for you to panic. Food will get to you.
Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC has for more than 60 years stayed true to its mandate, providing the nation nutritious food through its 5 core food value chain. This company says the gesture will be replicated across the country. In Lagos, Adeola Komiakere, NTA News.
And in another development, the chairman of the Victim Support Fund, VSF, General Theophilus Danjuma, has inaugurated the task force on COVID-19, mandated to provide palliative measures to internally displaced persons and other vulnerable groups around the country as part of its contribution to national efforts in curbing COVID-19. The task force will provide 1 billion naira worth of medical supplies, food, water and non-food items for IDPs and others who will face special challenges at this difficult time. The task force shall also work closely with all federal and state government organs and agencies tasked with the responsibility of providing direction and leadership in the fight against COVID-19. With Mrs. Toyosi Akirele Ogunsuji, the chairperson of the committee. Other members are Dr. Bulama Mali Gubiu and Ambassador John Gana, Mr. Sunday Obe, Mr. Al-Qasim Abdul Qadir, and Professor Sunday Ochoche. While the task force will also extend support to other frontline organizations working to curtail the spread of the coronavirus. General Danjuma also urged the committee to embark on massive sensitization campaigns amongst vulnerable groups to inform and educate them on the best hygiene and sanitation practices in order to prevent the further spread of the disease. How is COVID-19 affecting global food production and supply? Is Nigeria under food security threat with the presence of coronavirus? Our agriculture correspondent Musa Babali is out to find answers to these questions as he examines Nigeria's food security strategy considering COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, we apologize for that. We'll bring you the report in the course of the bulletin. Now, the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, has commended President Muhammadu Buhari on measures so far taken by his administration to tackle the spread of coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria. He says the release of funds and a special task force in place on COVID-19 is commendable as he solicits support and understanding of all Nigerians and frontline agencies in the fight during this trying moment of the nation. The DG also commended the National Assembly on the prompt economic stimulus to protect the livelihood of all Nigerians, describing it as patriotic, describing their donations of salaries to help contain the virus as selfless sacrifice. And then we'll go back to our earlier report by Musa Babaliu.
You'll give me pounded yam, draw soup, and dry fish. Food, yes, food is one item that one cannot keep social distance from, being the third most important thing to human being after oxygen and water. Producing food through cultivation or processing raw materials as meals for daily sustenance requires physical fitness and good health. And this is why outbreak of diseases such as COVID-19 is seen as a threat to food security. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has declared the coronavirus pandemic as a threat to global food security. Agriculturalists, including farmers' associations, are of the view that Nigeria will not experience food crisis as a result of the lockdown and restriction of movement due to the pandemic. This is based on significant improvements in the country's food production output in the last 4 years.
The fundamental objective of the government is self-sufficiency in food production and also to create an enabling environment.
The civil servant today, the business tycoons, women, youths, old and young, they all ventured into rice production.
However, the restriction of movement within the country, farmers and consumers say, is affecting the supply chain of produce.
Because of the coronavirus, people are not coming to the market, and my market is here, nobody to buy.
Like this ogbono when we dey sell, it don't affect them. The way when we dey buy the mudu before, 3,000 naira. As they buy and down, then we motor no gree carry come, we dey buy and 3,500 now.
Everybody should pray that God should help us so that the corona will go back to where it come from.
Blessing Auta, a vegetable merchant, brought this truckload of tomatoes from Gombe State to sell at the popular Orange Maraba market in Nasarawa State. She was shocked with sharp drop in the price of the produce due to glut.
So people, they know they carry the load, go Lagos, that is site. They go carry the load, come full Abuja, no any market for us.
At this market, a basket of tomato weighing 70 kilograms goes as low as 2,500 naira against the 10 to 12,000 naira it was sold for last week. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
An imposition of a lockdown to contain the spread of coronavirus impacting states in the country, including Ogun State, for an initial period of 14 days from Monday, 30th March 2020, although the Ogun State government has extended its enforcement date to Friday, April 3rd, 2020, to give residents time to stock their homes. Lekon Agbonde, who went round Abeokuta town, reports that besides residents flooding major markets in last-minute panic buying, the Commissioner of Police has appealed to residents to adhere strictly to the stay-at-home order.
This is Lafenwa Market, one of the biggest in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. The population in this market on a normal day is usually very, very high. Apart from the fact people are scared coming out, few people are doing last-minute shopping ahead of the lockdown directed by President Muhammadu Buhari. Food, shelter, and clothing are said to be basic necessities of life. With a 14-day ban on movement, getting these items will be difficult. The reason residents are making purchase to stock their homes ahead of the restriction order. Shopping ahead of the lockdown has resulted in hike in the price of commodities, especially food items.
They say we are closing shut down the city for the next 2 weeks. I know you have to buy food stuff for that to prepare you. That's why I came.
That'll be different because all the people are trying to buy market. So that is why they are rushing.
Major motor parks witnessed beehive of activities while motorists had a Herculean task driving through heavy traffic which characterized some roads within the state capital. While the ends of the clock are ticking by split seconds towards when the lockdown is expected to commence, movement in and out of town is also on the increase as drivers take advantage to make brisk business. Banks, pharmacies and stores also hosted increased number of people. Pansheke here in Abeokuta accommodates a number of banks. All the ATM points are besieged by customers who came to withdraw cash for one thing or the other ahead of the lockdown. Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police in the state, Kenneth Ebrimson, has said that the police will strictly enforce the directive in the war against the spread of coronavirus.
We have mapped out the boundaries with Ogun and other contiguous states, whereby we'll put security emplacement to show the effective coverage.
In Abeokuta, Lekon Agbonde, NTA News.
In the meantime, the immediate past governor of Ogun State and senator representing Ogun Central, Senator Ibikunle Amosun, has made a personal donation of 25 million naira to Ogun State government as part of efforts to manage coronavirus pandemic in the state. The former governor, who also pledged to provide stupulous of 25,000 families in the state, urged the people to stay safe while following all precautions given by health authorities to prevent the spread of the virus. And the Joint Health Sector Union, JOHESU, and Assembly of Healthcare Professionals have called on all health workers across Nigeria to support government, both federal and state, in curtailing the spread of coronavirus pandemic. National Chairman of JOHESU, Joy Josiah, has commended President Muhammadu Buhari for the inclusion of their members in the implementation of the various economic stimulus measures and palliatives to motivate health professionals and staff. JOHESU thanks its members in their courageous efforts, especially those at border and entry points, emergency units, ICU, and in various isolation centers for their resilience and commitment to combat the dreaded COVID-19 menace, while reminding government at all levels to provide needed protective items to health workers to prevent agitation. JOHESU also and AHPA AFPA charged members to actively participate in all committees where they serve as members. And this is News Extra. When we return, orientation camps turn isolation centers in need must approach in the fight against the virus on rampage. Plus, the armed forces smokes out bandits in Ngoske on the fringes on Sambisa Forest. Stay with us.
Coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
She's got the hots for me. I think she likes me.
I don't think so.
Cut it out. That's my girlfriend. Guys, I'm out. Sweet boy, coming through. I'm all yours.
Ooh. So tasty.
How is it going in there? Pretty cozy.
Mini-Me, taste the fun.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long. Live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
Good to know you're still with us. The Director General NYSC, Brigadier General Shuaibu Ibrahim, says NYSC orientation camps across the country are ready for use as isolation centers as the nation continues to combat the spread of coronavirus. The Director General stated this in Abuja during an inspection of the camp facilities at NYSC Orientation Camp Kubwa. Olenka Ojo reports.
Due to the ravaging global effect of coronavirus, the NYSC on the 18th of March suspended its 3 weeks orientation course 8 days after it commenced, a decision that got a nod from most youth corps members.
It's for our safety because we are meant to believe that safety comes first no matter what.
The move that the government does take now, it is right for them to leave us to lift the camp.
With the gradual increase in the number of infected cases of coronavirus in Nigeria, the Director General, NYSC, Brigadier General Shuaibu Ibrahim, inspected some structures at the NYSC FCT orientation camp in readiness for use as an isolation center to fight the pandemic.
It's an indication of the government concern for the welfare of Nigerians, and if NYSC camps are made available, we will have to comply and be on standby to that effect. And that's why I came to FCT camp to check the readiness of the camp.
On the lockdown order by the federal government, the DGNYC says
the corps members should be very careful. They should adhere strictly to government directives and also monitor our social media.
While reiterating the scheme's commitment towards ensuring the welfare, safety and security of youth corps members, the NYSC boss says before any orientation takes place in any camp, it will be fumigated. Olenka Ojo, NTA News.
And the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAM, is urging all prospective tertiary institutions, intakes, students, parents, and indeed the entire country to support the government by abiding by all instructions aimed at fighting the spread of the pandemic. The board appreciates the support and donations from corporate bodies and individuals towards complementing government's efforts aimed at containing the spread of the pandemic, as well as treating those already infected with the virus. The board has donated 2 ventilators to the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Gwagwalada, and 1 to the principal hospital in the board's host community, the Buhari General Hospital, in preparation for any eventuality. The donation of these ventilators, which cost several millions, JAM say, is to strategically equip these hospitals to give necessary treatment to COVID-19 patients, and in addition to several other interventions aimed at aiding the fight against the virus. And to a bit on security now, the Nigerian military says it has destroyed another logistic base of Boko Haram terrorists at Goshe on the fringes of Sambisa Forest, Borno State, while the air component of Operation Gamma Aiki in Nigerian military destroys bandits' hideout in Kalabu village, Niger State, has neutralized and wounded some bandits in their hideouts 10 kilometers from Pandogo Gari in Niger State. Meanwhile, a statement by Acting Director Defense Media Operations Brigadier General Bernard Onyeko concerning the air raid by Operation Lafayette at Goshe notes the airstrikes were conducted following credible intelligence report indicating existence of some structures within the settlements used by the terrorists to store their arms and other logistic items. Accordingly, Nigerian military fighter jets were dispatched to attack the location, recording accurate hits on targets, leading to the destruction of the base as well as the neutralization of some Boko Haram fighters. And in the concluding part of the news, we have our usual sport for sports and others. Please stay.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
You're welcome. Football fans in 10 countries preparing to watch live football from one European country weekend. Our Samanzi Marcos report on Sports Update.
Our sports stakeholders decry the impact of